Welcome everyone to the ENLIGHT and Arqus Alliance Ambassador webinar on open science. Today we have a speaker, Hildrun Walter from the University of Graz, as I am also from the University of Graz. Um, and yeah, Dr. Walter studied plant science before and also during her doctorate, which she finished in 2016. And then she became more interested in science communication during her time, also at the Botanical Garden, I think, here in Graz. And then, yeah, I think in 2018 it was when she started a postdoc position at the Center for Society, Science and Communication, or as we say here, the seventh faculty. And since then, she also became interested in engaging lay persons and non-scientists in scientific endeavors, which we all know is a part of the idea of citizen science in a broader term also of open science. During that time, a bit later, I also collaborated with her. She became like part of the Arqus network. She wrote as one of the one consortium member, so to speak, on the position paper on open science for the Arqus network. And for like the last 2 years, she's also an official Arqus open science ambassador. And I'm really glad that she is presenting here today. Yes, so just to give you a quick idea how this is working. So Hildrun will present a little bit on the topic of today. And afterwards, I will moderate to take questions. You can either then raise your hand as a reaction down there in the chat, or you just write into the chat if you have a questions and if you have a question. And then we are doing it first come, so to speak. Yes. And without further ado, if I didn't forget anything, I would give the word to Hildrun.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm very happy to have the possibility to present one of my topics I'm very interested in today. So I would like to share the slides. If you can't see them, just give me a quick hint. So does it work? Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Looks good, yeah.
Okay, so then today I want to talk about science in society as a big overview, and then go into science communication, since this is my I'm researcher for science communication since 2019. And I think it's quite interesting if open science practices can help science communication, and maybe how these interaction could function. And it would be a pleasure to discuss this with you in the end. But first, some slides from my side. So let's jump into the topic. Yeah, science and society. When we think about the perception of science in society, there are quite some challenges, I think, coming up. There are several expectations that come into place, and also the trust aspect is very important for this. So it doesn't react now. Well, when looking at the perception of science in society, you can go back many, many years or decades, but I don't want to go that far. Maybe we just jump in from 2017, and we can see here some aspects like, what went on 2017. We had Donald Trump, who became president, and he used his attention to pronounce the word fake news, and he also went against journalists, he went against researchers. It was quite a stuff. And this, together with all the disinformation available on climate change sciences, there was this debate on the post-truth era. This was also provided for or discussed in Lewandowski paper. And there was huge discussion on alternative facts, and it also swept over to the other side of discussion, like the New York Times picked up a special issue, The Truth is Essential, or people went on the streets to demonstrate for free sciences, so the March for Science in 2017. And this, yeah, since we have 2025 now and Trump again is here, and he yeah, somehow stirs up the discussion again with his politics, also, yeah, going against climate change research. And I think we also have the March of Science. We had it in the US in March, and also here for us in Europe, we had several demonstrations for science in March this year. So going further, so from 2017 onwards, we had one big survey, the special Eurobarometer on citizens' knowledge and attitudes towards science and technology. And what we see here is, yeah, I picked three of these questions and their answers. And one statement was, in my daily life, it is not important to know about science. And in Austria, we had 53% of respondents that agreed to this statement. So this is far more than in the EU mean, which was 1/3 who agreed to this statement. And one other is, science is so complicated that I do not understand much about it. And also here we have more than 50% of respondents that agreed with this statement in Austria. And I think this is very important for science communication, right? It's too complicated. People maybe can't understand it. So we need some ways to go here to, yeah, go against this perception. And the last statement, sorry. Science and technology could improve everyone's lives, but mostly improve the lives of people who are already better off. And here, even 60% agreed, and this is close to the EU mean of 57%. So this may be something is that also acts against trust, or shows that there is something wrong in this perception of science and society. And I think here is really a huge possibility for open science to go against this perception. So what are the questions or aspects that are somehow discussed or already are within the societal discourse? Well, why do we need sciences or science? What are the tasks of sciences, and what can be achieved with their help? Yeah, this is something that was debated through this time, also with Corona crisis. So we have this relevance aspect of sciences, comprehensibility, the discussion on trust versus skepticism, or let's say distrust, and the different expectations. So when we take the coronavirus example, when we look from an internal perspective, like from the academic side, we would say sciences were a huge achievement during this period, right? We had lots of studies that published their data openly and their publications openly, so that we can move on with the results and with the knowledge in this aspect. We had yeah, the development of vaccination in very relatively short time. So this was quite cool from academia side, I would say, and a huge success. On the other hand side, we have parts in society that somehow distrusted how sciences worked. We had new information. There was a lot of things that, yeah, where the expectations were different, right? So what society wanted from sciences and what they could give. So sometimes society and academia are not quite in balance, right? Moving forward from the corona crisis, we can look at trust values. So in Austria, the ministry started a survey um, with replication each year. And for 2024, we had 73% of the respondents that said that they do trust in science, and only 5% say they don't, right? So this is quite a high amount, I would say. So we have trust in science in Austria. And this also goes along with quite a responsibility for scientists, that we handle this trust with respect, let's say. And when we look for the trust values in scientists across the world, we have a new study from Colonia et al. From 2025. And we have this TISP online dashboard. It's quite cool. Maybe we can share the link afterwards. So it's interactive and you can click around and click for your nation as well. And in this, I just copied it for a global view, right? So we have high trust values in North and South America for sciences. In India, in Egypt, and in Europe, when you look at Europe, it's quite diverse. So trust is not as high as in other regions of the world. Um, and I would say maybe in Spain and Sweden we have higher values, but in Austria it's 3.4, so it's rather moderate trust here in this survey. Okay, but so we have trust in science also globally, but this trust is not evenly distributed among disciplines. So when we look here, we see that mathematics, physics, and chemistry are highly trusted in Austria. And maybe this is also due to these are courses we have in school, right? So maybe there's some attachment to these disciplines as well. But when we look here for ecology and climate change here below, or artificial intelligence and informatics, there's a huge gap, right? So trust gets lost for these scientific disciplines. And when we think about climate change, maybe you have already some ideas why this is the case. So climate change is quite a challenge for communication, right? It's difficult. Why is it difficult? Because it's a science with many uncertainties. Yeah, it's future oriented with many, models behind. We have a steep increase in scientific studies, so the lot is going on. Some claims are revised. We have always remodeling and remodeling with all the new data that comes in. So there's a lot of movement here. And there's of course a lot of actors in communication here. Media information is very high in all channels, so it's quite of an overload, I would say. And we have also extremely controversial socio-political debates. So science communication, climate change, sorry, has been picked up as a political topic, right? So from this side as well. And of course, we have an existence of misinterpretations, but also misinformation and targeted disinformation here. So this is also quite a challenge for trustworthy communication. Yeah, like when we see that we have here a political aspect as well. Let me click here. Okay. That we have a political political uptake of scientific topics in the debate and the socio debate, then we can see here confidence values in scientists for the US. And what we see before Corona, so 2020, November 20, for example, we had 84% of people that have confidence in scientists. But then we have, with coronavirus, we have quite a drop, right? And this drop is not evenly distributed through society. It's different for the Democrats and the Republic followers. So people who follow the Republicans, they dropped in confidence in science or in scientists quite steeply. And for the Democrats, we don't have this drop in the same intensity. So what we can see here is that we have quite of a divide or a polarization in society and societal groups. And this polarization may also be a threat to trust. So is trust in science endangered? I will pick up here 3 arguments that maybe have some influence on this trust development in future. Of course, we don't know since we don't know the future, but maybe we can discuss on that. So what we know is when we have a huge amount of mis and disinformation, this endangers the epistemic authority of sciences and scientists because this really goes against it with purpose. And when looking at the discussion or who trusts, judges trustworthiness on scientists, we have to take into consideration the perception of value alignment. What does this mean? People who feel that their concerns and values are not reflected in the priorities of the scientist may doubt the trustworthiness of the scientist. So this is quite clear when we see someone, when we see a doctor and we are maybe on the same page with our values and with our perceptions, with our priorities, and I feel this, I can trust them more. If when I have the feeling he or she doesn't understand me, or we are in 2 different worlds, right? And one third argument, it's about science-related populism. So what is this? Science-related populism is a perceived antagonism between the ordinary people and the common sense on the one hand side, and the academic elites with their scientific expertise and the allegedly biased knowledge from their perspective on scientific topics. So this is also quite a debate in Austria, since we have also in these surveys, there is a question if one should follow the common sense or the gut feeling, or if one should rather think about scientific knowledge and scientific studies to rely on. And 40% of Austrians are in favor of the common sense and to follow like ordinary people's perception. And I think what would be important is that this is not such highly opposed, right? It would be a good idea to bring people by education, maybe by younger people, to somehow see, hey, common sense could be part of scientific perceptions, or scientific perceptions could be part of common sense, and this would be, I think, quite an important aspect to provide in science communication as well. Okay, coming to the second part. So we see science is somehow perceived in a society from different perspectives. And so the communicators will take different roles, tasks, and responsibilities to bring science in society. And how does communication work, and how does perception aspect work? To understand this, I want to take the example of antibiotics resistance, just this topic. And we have people from society who look from different angles onto this topic. Yeah, we have. It doesn't work. So, okay. Yeah, now. We have people who maybe see some or have fear that they will be diseased or will get ill or have a disease that needs to be cured by antibiotics and maybe have even a resistant strain, so that yeah, the cure is endangered. Then we have maybe people from the pharmaceuticals industry who see the economic basis here, right? So maybe there are even some conflicts of interest, like, okay, we want to provide health, yeah, medicaments, pharmaceuticals to society that help. And on the other hand, we have also this economic basis. So we need to gain some money to yeah, do further research, etc. Then we have maybe people from the hospital management who look at this on this topic, and they rather see the importance of protecting patients, or they see as well the limited use of antibiotics to prevent resistance. And to be honest, most people rather have a general interest in those topics, right? So maybe no direct connection to the topic, maybe even low awareness on this topic, and maybe even a kind of blindness for those topics. So we have lots of different perceptions, and these perceptions differ in different dimensions. So when we go to the dimension perspective, we have here the connection with the topic. So this could be professional, it could be private, it could be some general interest. We have the vulnerability that is different, like if you are affected by a disease that needs to be cured by antibiotics and you know you have an antibiotic resistant strain, you have another effectiveness level, right? So it could be economic dependence, it could be of some social relevance. We have different information behaviors. Also, this is important for the perception dimension. So we have people with different demands, with different behavior to acquire information and also to process information. And this results in different information levels. And one last thing, we have the personality dimension. So of course, my attitudes towards science, my attitudes towards politics, and also the values, the interests and experiences will be part of how I perceive certain topics, certain scientific topics. So, but what do we do with these different dimensions, or what should we think about when going to science communication? And for that step, I want to go to a model of communication, a general model. Maybe you know it. It's already from 1980 from Hall, and it's this encoding decoding model. And I take this because it's quite obvious and simple. However, I think it has some aspects that need to be taken into account today as well. So we have the sender, and he or she wants to provide a message to the receiver. And to do so, he needs to encode this message. Yeah, and he does this in his words, in his voice, in his culture, with his visuals. He knows. So this is dependent on his education, on his culture behind. And on the other hand, we have the receiver who decodes. And by decoding, the same rules apply. We have seen this for the antibiotics resistance. So this is not equal for everyone, but this depends on the experience, on the level of knowledge, on expectations for the situation. So this decoding is different for all people. And when we know that this decoding is different, we should try to understand this. When we understand how they decode, how different target groups decode, then we can use this knowledge to adapt our communication, our encoding to their needs. So we can tailor the message to the target audience, and the better we know their decoding, the better we can encode our message accordingly. But what does this has to do with trust? So coming to the trust aspect again, we can think about what trust is. Trust means making oneself vulnerable to the advice of an expert, or the willingness to take personal advice from scientists, or wanting the government to take advice from scientists, right? So this is the behavioral trust in science. But this is not the one we can directly influence with our communication. So what communicators can do when they act, when they speak, is that they will influence how people perceive their trustworthiness. So this is something different. So there's a step in between before coming to trust that results in a certain behavior. And these trustworthiness beliefs, as they are called, are like credibility or reputation, and they consist of several levels. And here we have some of them. So mostly it's about ability or expertise beliefs. It's about how we perceive the warmth or the intentions of the scientist. So if he adheres to benevolence, and then if he is integer or she or honest, then we have openness beliefs and also shared values and identity. So it's about how people believe that this person is. Yes, and this is different kinds. Okay. And with this information, we can look at these different roles scientists adopt in society. I've just picked here some examples, and I will go through them quickly to provide you some ideas about which roles scientists have, or communicators on science have in society, and what this entails for values or also responsibilities. So starting with these two people, I don't know how internationally known they are, but in Austria and Germany, they are especially known as experts, scientific experts on the coronavirus. And they had a podcast named the Coronavirus Update during the pandemic. And their role was to be a scientific expert in this field of public attention. So they had to provide trustworthy information to support our opinion formation and hopefully also decision making. Yeah. So the second aspect, of course, is knowledge transfer. But even more important, I think, it was to interpret the available knowledge and to provide the context, or to interpret within this societal context what evidence we have in science. Another role is in science ambassador. This is a person who is very dedicated for his discipline or her discipline. And here we have the example of Florian Freistetter. He's a podcaster and he has his Sternengeschichten, so stories about stars. So he's an astronomer, and he really is very engaged and very positive about his discipline. And he wants to interest people in astronomy and in science. and he fosters understanding and also provides knowledge, of course. And he specialized for a younger audience. Also, he reaches other people, but his target audience is young adults. And then we have scientific policy advisors. Here was a IPCC. So these are researchers on climate change who provide information in their yearly reports. And their role is that science should see itself in the role of an honest broker who shows policymakers decision alternatives and options on the basis of scientific evidence. So what they should do is to provide different options, to provide different possibilities. What they should not do is to prescribe policy, because this is up to politics, right? So you have to somehow be clear about the responsibilities between these two spheres. And the last example, it's about advocates or maybe even activists. So here, the example here is the last generation activists glued themselves on the streets in Vienna. And we had scientists from ecology that stood behind them, and they shared their goals. So they said, okay, we are here, we stand just behind you, and we share your goals. We cover your back. And what is their role? They provide an opinion. So these are scientists that provide opinion, and they argue it with the urgency or the need for action based on evidence. So they know that it is important to act now, so they push towards engagement, they push toward political actions, and argues this with scientific evidence. Okay, coming to the last part and coming to open science. So what about strategic science communication? So we know now otherwise. So we now know about how science is perceived in society, and we know about different roles and possibilities to bring science into society, and how can we do this strategically. And I think here we can debate some chances how open science can help to provide a strategy here. What we know, and this is from a systematic review, so what we know where science communication can be effective is that when we avoid technical terminology or jargon. So this is known that when we speak more easy, more comprehensible, that this fosters how science is perceived. But this has a little drawback. So if we are too simple, people could just think we are not as able, not as don't have such a profound expertise. So it's good to have one or two technological terms in your science communication, and just provide explanation before these terms are dropped, and then name the jargon word, and then you are sure to be perceived as an expert and as able as it should be. Then implement a clear structure. Of course, this makes it more easy to follow your idea, to follow your argumentation. Include citations and reliable expert sources. Provide information on the applied methods. I think this is quite important, that we somehow come to a culture where also different parts of society know how science works. And this, to come there, we need to communicate this, right? And provide key statistical and numerical facts. Okay. But coming back to trust, I want to provide this model, or it's a model based on Meyer, Davis, and Schormann from 1995. It's an integrative model of organizational trust, and it's also led by Besley, who is a famous scientist for science communication and science in society as well. And what we have here on the left-hand side are these factors for perceived trustworthiness. These are these trustworthiness beliefs we discussed, right? So how we perceive the scientist who's communicating. So we judge the ability or the competence of this communicator, his goodwill or her goodwill, and the integrity. And this judgment will lead to some trust. So when we see, okay, this person really wants to do something good, he's or she is integer, she has quite an expertise, I want to trust this person. This is like the idea we want to have, but then there are ongoing things. So this is not actually the behavior thinking of the coronavirus vaccination. Maybe I want to trust, but when it comes to the action, maybe I think, oh no, there's some risk and I don't know, I have fear, and then I just don't do it. Maybe. But we want to focus here on this trustworthiness beliefs, and we know that we can somehow influence them. And when we think about open science, here we see the elements of open science from our Arqus openness position paper. And when we think about these different areas or elements of open science, there is quite a huge possibility of aspects that could help to improve the perception of this trustworthiness beliefs. So when thinking about ability or competence, I think when we have, when we show our publications openly, when we show, hey, we have good data that is behind and you can even access this, we have methods that are openly available, and we have open evaluation where we can read, hey, also other scientists have good arguments why they say this is a solid research. Then I think this will help that this scientist is judged as competent, right? And also, when coming to the benevolence part, maybe some other aspects are even more important, like shared governance. Yeah, when I allow other parts of society to be part in decision making during my research project, maybe it becomes more clear that this is something that should foster society or help society, and not only myself or my discipline or something. Thinking also about the Eurobarometer, where people said, hey, research only helps parts of society and mostly those who are already better off, and not other parts of society. So maybe with this governance aspect, we can help here. Also with open education, if everyone can access something which helps them, then there's goodwill behind, right? Citizen science as well. Science, good science communication can help to share here. And also awareness and training may help to show, okay, we want really to provide something to society. And on the integrity part, I think here as well, it's important to share the publications to show here are the results, but even more to share data, to share the methods, so that we can say, okay, we can reproduce this, and with possible reproduction, we can see this. Everything is okay with this. There is no I don't know, intended bias that was pursued. And also the open evaluation could help here as well. So these are all elements of open science that could help to foster these trustworthiness beliefs or perceptions of trustworthiness in science. And since this is rather hypothetical, I want to come to a study that was done by Hilma, and I was allowed to have a small part on this as well. So I'm happy that Hilma is the moderator today, so he can help me out if there are questions on that part. This is a study called Facets of Trust in Science, and it's a replication study of a study done in the US, and it was amended for open science aspects as well. So what was done is that people, I think up to 600 people, were provided to different scenarios, and they had to rate a researcher. And the researcher has to be rated how able he is or competent, how ethical, and how correct. So these are these aspects of trustworthiness beliefs, right? The ableness or competency is the expertise. The ethical is part of the benevolence, and correctness is something between integerness and benevolence as well. So, and the scenarios were named as follows. Researcher X publishes an interesting finding, and then the judgments we see are rather in the middle, so moderate ratings for the expert to be able, ethical, and correct, maybe a little bit more on the more competent side. And going further with the different scenarios, so when the researcher X publishes this interesting finding, and the second researcher, researcher Y, successfully replicates it. Researcher X is judged more able, more ethical, and his corrects are judged more correct. So we see that this has an effect. And when, on the other hand, when he fails to do so, the ableness or competence slightly drops, but is still in the middle. But the correctness here somehow goes on the other direction. Going further, when X then says that Y's results are not valid, then we see he's judged less able and less ethical, and also less correct than in the beginning. On the other hand, when X agrees with Y's results, so if there's some concordance, they say, hey, he's more able and more ethical. But these results are anyhow less correct. And when he decides to investigate the differences, this is good for all three dimensions, right? Now coming to open science, I left some of the scenarios out here. Coming to open science, when X publishes an interesting results and make then this data and material openly available, he's judged even more able or competent, he's judged more ethical and also more correct. So we see here that this has good effects in theory, since this is a theoretical approach, right? That people want to see these open science activities. Okay, coming to the last slide. So in summary, effective science communication can make a contribution, and I hope I could interest you and motivate you to do open science and science communication. So it can contribute to provide contextualize and interpret scientific evidence. So this is important to enable informed decisions in politics and businesses, but also in society. Science communication can contribute to raise and foster scientific competence. This is important for opinion forming and decision making. It can contribute to strengthen convictions about trustworthiness. And I think this is of utmost importance since we see the actual politics in the US, but also in Europe, I think. So to maintain trust in science, scientists, and scientific institutions, this is really important, and we should think about that. And science communication can contribute to drive social discourse and to promote understanding and also agreement of scientific topics within society. So we should try to somehow counteract this polarization. We should try to bring people together again and help to save a good perception in science. So with that, I hope I have convinced you to do science communication and motivated you. And I'm very interested in your opinions on open science and science communication.